it's kind of leveling out, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Hello, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. This is Financial Aid, Payments, and Housing, Navigating a Successful First Year at WWU. Let me be hopefully among the first people to say congratulations on your admittance and acceptance to Western. I think I can speak for everybody here today when I say that we're really excited that you're going to be joining us this fall. We're really excited to see some people in person. Really looking forward to a good year. My name is Jessica Coogan. I use she, her pronouns, and I'll be mainly moving everything along today, kind of getting us started, introducing all of our presenters. I am a Western alum. I graduated in 2018 with a bachelor's degree in political science. As a student, I worked in the student business office for all 4 years that I attended. And then after working and traveling for a few years, I started working again at Western at the beginning of 2020. So I've kind of been exactly where you're sitting with a lot of questions about going into your first year. So hopefully we will be able to get to as much of that and help you navigate as much as possible. I just wanted to give you a few reminders for today's event. We are recording today's webinar, as well as the presentation that we do have coming up in September and the previous presentations that we've had. So you'll see some available on some of our websites already, and then today's you will see posted here in the next few days. So yeah, if you have any questions or if you have, if you want to review any of the information, that'll be really great to go back to. Before we get into today's presentations, I do want to start us off with a poll, so I'm going to go ahead and launch that. If you could just go ahead and answer, it's to see who we have in the audience. So you'll see it pop up. I'll leave it up for about 30 seconds. The question is, are you a student, parent, or select other if you're here because you have a different reason for attending today? All right, I see pretty much everybody has responded. So it looks like this is, we have about 50% students, 50% parents. If you want to go ahead and see that. So I appreciate your response. We always just like to see so that way we can make sure we're gearing our information towards whoever we have attending. So on to today's events. We will begin with short presentations from the Financial Aid Department, the Student Business Office, and University Residences. Following the presentations, we'll open up the floor for a pretty long Q&A session where you can ask questions from any of the departments that are here. I do want to make it clear today that the presentations and the Q&A portion of this event are meant to be geared towards your financial questions that you have, generally going up for the year. I know that several of our offices do provide other services, but we are mainly focusing on the financial side of things today. But there are several other resources that you can check out for everything else you need to know to navigate your first year. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on your Western email. You'll get emails about different events, and just generally kind of keep a lookout as you're on different websites for resources that other departments are also hosting. To find pretty much all the information you need to know for your first year, you can also check out the new Student Services website, where they have orientation materials and just links to a lot of different places that you can go. I'll be sure to put a link in the chat later on during the Q&A, and then they will have full list of webinars and FAQs for new students. Speaking of that, you'll also kind of hear us refer a lot to our department websites pretty frequently throughout the presentations and during the Q&A. This is always the best place to start when you have a question, because we all have a variety of resources on there, just readily available at your disposal. So don't be surprised when we all kind of keep mentioning going to our website and referring there. When you do have questions as they come up, please use the Q&A feature. But I would ask that you kind of wait until the Q&A portion, because we will probably answer several of your questions during the presentation. So if you could just hold off until the end, that would be great. If you have any questions that are specific to your situation or your account, Please make sure to email the appropriate office after today's session. We will try our best, but if we don't get to your question today, which is absolutely possible, with about 150 people here, again, just please email the office, and that will be, or go to the links that are on the screen right now. I will also be showing this again during the Q&A portion. All right, I think that's kind of all the logistics, everything kind of taken care of. Let's go ahead and get started with our first presentation. First up is from Financial Aid by Jasmine Johnson. Go ahead and take it away.
Awesome, thank you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and launch my presentation here. Hopefully everyone can see this now. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. So this is a financial aid award letter, and today we're going to go over all of the details about a financial aid offer. Hopefully you have one of these already and you've already seen one. If you don't have one yet, though, that is okay. There is still time, but we do encourage you to contact our Financial Aid Services Center if you haven't gotten one yet, so you can check on the status of your financial aid and make sure that you get one as soon as you can. And then all of the information that's contained in this financial aid award offer is also available in your Web for You, which is accessed through the My Western student portal. So you can see everything in your Web for You as well. And you do get a financial aid offer by submitting the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid. And just a reminder that that FAFSA application is done annually, every single year. And the FAFSA for the 23-24 award year is actually going to be ready to complete before we know it here in October. And as mentioned, lots of things will be sent to you via your Western email, so you will get reminders about that. But again, the FAFSA is annual and is necessary to get a financial aid offer. So the first thing that we're going to talk about here is our cost of attendance. So this cost of attendance here reflects someone who is a resident student. If you are a non-resident, the only difference is that the tuition and fees component will be higher, and it will be reflected in your financial aid offer with your accurate tuition and fees if you're a non-resident, with that higher amount for non-res folks. And then again, this one is for a resident student, for example, today. So we have two different types of costs, direct costs and indirect costs. And the difference between these is that direct costs, you're directly billed by Western for these costs. So your tuition and fees, your room and board, which that's your dorm and your meal plan, and then the one-time enrollment fee. Your indirect costs include things like your books and supplies, personal expenses, and personal can include everything from toothpaste to going and doing something fun with your friends. Transportation, that includes things like expenses you might incur traveling home during winter and spring breaks, or if you bring a car to campus, then your parking pass. And so one thing I want to point out is room and board is listed here right now under direct costs. But if you are someone who's going to be living off campus, then room and board won't be charged by Western anymore, and it's actually charged by, say, a landlord for your rent, and then you'd have a grocery bill. So then those would be indirect costs if you're going to be living off campus. So just something to keep in mind. And with indirect costs, you do have some consumer choice here. So for example, with your books, you could choose to rent instead of buy them brand new. Personal expenses, especially, you have a lot of control over. So a friendly reminder to live like a college student now so that you don't have to later. And then with the, let me make sure I've got all my pieces here, sorry. One other piece I wanted to mention too with the room and board is for on and off campus housing and our budget for that, we actually budgeted the same. So your cost of attendance wouldn't change if you're moving off campus. We use the same figure as if you're living on campus for budgeting for room and board. So that's everything I'm going to go over for the cost of attendance for now. And next we're going to talk about your actual financial aid awards and the different aid types that you might see in a financial aid offer. So our example here includes all sorts of different types of aid. Yours may look different if you're not eligible for some of these, but we are going to run through all of them for folks who might have any of these types of aid in their financial aid offer. So the aid that is listed here is in order from most favorable to least favorable. So we're going to start with grants. Grants are free money, and that doesn't have to be paid back. So obviously that's a pretty favorable thing to have. And then the grants are determined if you're eligible for those from that FAFSA application. Next, we're going to talk about scholarships. So first year scholarships are often awarded by our admissions office through the admissions application process. So here you can see that we have the Admissions Achievement Award, and that was awarded to the student from our admissions office from their admissions application process. Once you're a returning student, you're not going to have that admissions application process anymore. So you will have to be a little more proactive and work with our scholarship center to search for future year scholarship opportunities. But our scholarship center is amazing, and they will send you lots of notifications of when scholarship season is approaching so that you don't miss out on any opportunities to pursue future year scholarships. So again, watch your Western email because they will notify you there. And then also once you are majored, so say you decide you want to be a business student and you get admitted into your major, you will also have other opportunities through academic departments for scholarship opportunities. And if you have any outside scholarships that aren't already listed in your financial aid offer, do contact our scholarship center so you can notify them of those and make sure that you take care of any steps that you might need to take care of for outside scholarships to be sure that they're included in your financial aid offer and so that you get the funds where they need to go. The next one that we're going to talk about is work study. Work study is a need-based type of employment opportunity. So essentially, work study is you have on-campus and off-campus work study positions available. And excuse me. Really, work study is just like any other job. So you would go and apply for a work study position. If you get hired by that employer, then you do HR eligibility paperwork, just like you would for any regular job. You get a paycheck, just like any other position, and that paycheck gets sent directly to you. But the main benefit of work study and why it's a need-based type of employment opportunity is that in future years, when you report your earnings on a FAFSA application, there's a section on the FAFSA where you report how much of your earnings are work study, and then those wages are actually excluded from determining your financial aid eligibility. So that's the biggest difference, but you really don't need work study to get a job. We do encourage all students to be working part-time while they're in school. We don't want students working more than 19 hours a week, though, while they're in school. That's sort of the sweet spot. Studies have shown that students who are working part-time while in school do better in school. They get better grades, have better graduation rates, and better opportunities for jobs post-college. And you can start looking for employment opportunities, both work study and non-work study positions on our Student Employment Center website. Now, more jobs will be posted as the summer progresses and we get closer to fall quarter, but it's definitely not unheard of for students to have a position, have a job ready to go when they start in the fall. And we do encourage folks to have a position or start working in the fall rather than waiting that quarter, the first fall quarter to, kind of get used to school and all of that. We do encourage you to actually do all of it at once and get a job fall quarter if you're considering working, mainly because then you're not missing out on any job opportunities, and especially if it's a good fit for you and you have that perfect job that you want while you're in school, and then it's no longer available because it got filled by someone else if you do wait until winter or spring quarters. But we do post jobs all year round, so the Student Employment Center is a great resource for looking for work study and non-work study positions, both on and off campus. Okay, next we're going to talk about loans. So loans are an aid type that do require to be paid back in the future. The two loans that are listed here in our example are the federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Both of these are student loans that don't have any credit check requirement. You're offered these by completing the FAFSA application. And if you choose to accept loan, there are just two requirements that you need to complete. One is called loan entrance counseling, and that's basically a tutorial that will teach you how to be a good first-time loan borrower. And the second one is a master promissory note, which is you agreeing to the terms and conditions that you'll learn about in the loan entrance counseling. One piece about loans, you do need to be at least half-time in order to be eligible for loans, which for our purposes is 6 or more credits. And for both loans, repayment begins 6 months after you graduate or stop attending, but you can do early repayment if you want to and are able. We also, so between the subsidized and unsubsidized, the only difference between these two is that subsidized loan does not accrue interest while you're in school. Unsubsidized loan does accrue interest while you're in school. Both of those have an interest rate of 4.99% for the 22-23 academic year. And as you progress through school, your borrowing power will increase. So the amounts here listed for this student in total between the two loan types are $5,500 because this example is someone who's a freshman. Excuse me, a freshman. And the freshman annual loan eligibility is $5,500. But once you're a sophomore, it's $6,500. And once you're a junior or senior, it goes up to $7,500. And those are also an annual basis. So for example, first year, you'd be offered $5,500, your second year, $6,500, $7,500 your last 2 years. And work study and loans can be accepted or declined in your web for you. And a note about all aid types, so most of them are available if you're going to be enrolled less than full time. So some of them will be required to be adjusted, but if you are considering going less than full time, definitely contact our Financial Aid Services Center to discuss what your aid might look like if you're not going to be a full-time student. And full time, if I didn't mention it, is 12 or more credits. So as you can see here, all financial aid is on a quarterly basis. So it's allocated evenly over fall, winter, and spring quarters. And your bill is going to be the same. So you're billed on a quarterly basis as well. And how financial aid will work once you have accepted your fall quarter financial aid, for example, then your financial aid gets applied towards your balance, your bill here at Western at the beginning of every quarter. And if your financial aid exceeds your bill, then you will receive those excess funds as a refund that you can use for other expenses such as books and supplies. And if your financial aid does not meet your bill, if it doesn't cover your full balance, then you are responsible for that remaining balance. And we'll go over some other options if you're thinking, I don't know how I'm going to take care of that difference, but otherwise you would, want to pay out of pocket or use your plan to take care of the balance each quarter. And again, that's a quarterly basis. So you'll get your bill fall quarter, aid applies fall, same thing winter, same thing spring. So you can use your financial aid offer if you're to kind of figure this out, if you're trying to figure out if your financial aid is actually going to cover your full balance or not, using those cost of attendance components that we talked about, and then what your specific financial aid offer looks like. So for example, if you're living off campus, you can use our estimated tuition and fees cost and room and board to get an idea of what your bill will be each quarter, and then comparing that against your quarterly financial aid to see if your aid will cover your full balance or not. And if you are finding that you're needing additional funding, here are some other options that you can pursue. The Parent Plus loan is a loan that's taken out in the parent's name. It does require an application and a credit check done at studentaid.gov, and the interest rate for the Parent Plus loan is 7.54%. For another option, you have the private loan that you might be able to pursue. A private loan is an educational student loan from an outside bank or lending institution. And our financial aid website has some resources and a search tool available if you are wanting to take a look at private loan options. The search tool is helpful because if you just Google private loans, that can be a little overwhelming. So our search tool is called Fast Choice, and it does offer a list of lenders that other Western students have historically used. So if you do pursue a private student loan, we would encourage you to pursue one with a cosigner if you're going to look for a loan in the student's name, mainly because students often don't have credit history, and in order to get the best interest rate in terms of the loan, having a cosigner is often very helpful. And we encourage you to shop around between private loan and Parent Plus loan, just again, to make sure that you're getting the best loan that you might be eligible for. Other things to take into consideration when you're looking at if additional funding is if maybe you have outside scholarships are coming in, and if you're going to be working, as I mentioned, part-time while you're in school, keeping that in mind. Maybe you'll use your earnings to pay for things like those personal expenses. And then perhaps you have out-of-pocket or savings already set aside that you're using, and can use that to plan accordingly for if you need to pursue additional funding or not. And then finally, our student business office does have a tuition payment plan, and the student business office will provide more information about that. So if you're thinking, okay, yeah, we need to pursue some additional funding options beyond what's just listed in my financial aid offer right now, now is a good time to start that process. You're not too late, you're right on time, but starting to look at your options between the Parent Plus loan, private loan options. And of course, if you have any questions about that, or if you're thinking I don't even know yet based on the information you provided. I'm still lost and I don't know if I need more money or not. Contact our office. That's what we're here for. And we can go over your specific financial aid offer and help you determine if one of these options might be something that you need. But again, now is the time to get that figured out so that you don't show up fall quarter and starting to figure it out then. That is stressful and not fun. So get your plan in place now so that you're all set for fall quarter. All right, and the last box we're going to go over here on your financial aid offer. We do communicate, as mentioned, through your Western email and your Web for You. And Web for You is where you'll see if you have any outstanding requirements. So check yours today, that's your homework, and check it often, just to make sure that any requirements you have are all completed and satisfied ahead of the school year beginning, as many outstanding requirements, if they are there, would prevent financial aid from dispersing. And fall quarter is busy for us, and you want to be the student who has all your ducks in a row so that you don't have to stand in line at one of our offices in the beginning of fall quarter. So check your Web for You. And if you do have any outstanding requirements in there and you're unsure how to satisfy those, contact our office. We can definitely make sure that you have everything you need in order to make sure your aid is all set up for the beginning of the academic year. So that's my overview for the financial aid offer. I know that was a lot of information. I know I talk fast. I'm so sorry. I'm working on it, but here we are. So if you missed any of this, again, mentioned this will be recorded, and please do feel free to contact our office if you have any questions or if you have a haven't gotten your financial aid award letter yet either. We want to make sure that you get that. So that's all I've got for today. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing and pass it back to Jessica.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, we all appreciate all of the useful financial aid information. Next up, we have Karen Yackley from the Student Business Office to discuss everything we do, including how to make your payments on your student account online.
Thanks, Jessica, and thanks, Jasmine. I'm going to start by sharing in the chat just a link to tuition and fees chart. Jasmine mentioned at the beginning of her presentation that the award letter was focused on an in-state student tuition costs. And so this chart will show you both the in-state cost and the out-of-state costs. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There we go. Okay, so as Jessica mentioned, my name is Karen Yackley and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Assistant Director for the Student Business Office, and I'm really happy to be here today with all of you. I'm going to focus on when, where, and how to pay your bill. I'm going to be covering a lot of information just like Jasmine did. I will try to slow down, but want to fit a lot of information in. And hang in there with your questions for the Q&A portion. Hopefully, I will answer some of your questions during my presentation. So I'm going to start by defining what the Student Business Office does, because many of you may not be familiar with our office. We encompass several different units, which as a student, you'll probably encounter all of them at some point during your time at Western. We're located on the first floor of Old Main, right next to the Rose Garden. We include a payment unit that processes all Western payments. For students, this means payments for tuition, fees, housing, and other education-related expenses. We handle incoming payments from federal and state agencies, other universities, and private businesses. And we have an online payment portal that allows payments to be made anytime, day or night. We also include a billing unit, which is responsible for all the financial activity on your Western account online. And I'll go into more detail about what your Western account online is later in this presentation. Your Western account does include where your charges, refunds, or payments are housed. We also distribute the IRS 1098-T form, which is a tuition statement used for tax purposes. We do apply monthly late fees on past due balances. We produce statements and place financial holds that prevent students from registering for courses if they have a past due balance. Some other services that are included with the Student Business Office are the Debt Recovery Unit that helps students navigate repayment of federal and former Western account online balances. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have a past due balance, the debt recovery unit can discuss repayment solutions with you. And before we talk about the next service that we offer, which is transportation services, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to launch a poll. Let's see here. There we go. So hopefully you can see that. Are you planning on bringing a car with you to campus? I'll give you a moment to answer that question. All right, looks like it's slowing down here. So I'm going to go ahead and end it and share the results. It looks like about 39% plan on bringing a car and 61% do not. So I'm going to try and convince that 39% not to bring a car, and I'll tell you why here. Okay, so transportation services serves as a bridge between students and their commute options. We provide advice to students on how to get to campus and encourage students, staff, faculty, and visitors not to depend on their vehicle. So part of the fees that students pay, which I shared that link in the chat, include what we call an active transportation fee. And that fee covers a variety of things. And on our website, we do define what all of the fees cover, but one of the pieces that active transportation fee covers is a bus pass. And the Transportation Services Department can help you navigate the bus system in Bellingham, which is known as Whatcom Transportation Authority. So it's a great option rather than using a car. And that takes me back to our polling question. So we want to make sure that you are aware there are other options that don't involve driving a car every day. And it's really important for students to understand that parking is limited on campus. So if you absolutely need to bring one, you will need to purchase a student parking permit because every parking lot on campus requires a valid permit. So students need to add themselves to our wait list, which can be done right now through the parking portal, and permits are awarded based on availability, and wait list position is ordered based on the number of credits the student comes in with. So if you are a senior, you're more likely to get a permit than, let's say, a freshman. If you are out and about after the bus system stops operating at night, Western Starlight Shuttle provides Western students with an on-demand, no-cost ride within 5-mile radius of campus. So that's a great option for our students. And I believe in the chat, Jillian shared some more resources. So please check out that if you have questions about any transportation-related issues. All right, and so last, let's see here, we also have within the SBO, the Western Card services. So the Western Card allows you to access campus through our dining halls, Western libraries, the Wade King Rec Center, and off campus as a bus pass with unlimited rides on all WTA and Skagit transit bus routes. Western Card Services is available through an online portal, so students can log in right now and use their Western single sign-on to upload their card photo, submit their card request. All first year and transfer students have been sent an email from the card office with instructions, so make sure you take a look at that and submit your request for your Western card today so that you don't have to stand in line in our office come September. All right, so that is a little bit about the Student Business Office. Now we're going to go back to focusing on payments and billing. So this is just a view of our website. And as Jessica mentioned at the beginning, we really do want you to go visit our website. There's a lot of great resources out there. You're going to see important dates and deadlines on our website. This includes when tuition and fees are due. And so that is the first day of every quarter. Fall quarter, that's September 21st. That's when we want you to pay your tuition and fees and housing bill. However, we also want you to be aware that there is a little bit of a grace period. If your balance is not paid by the 15th of the month, we will assess late fees on your account. And that is a $55 late fee on balances that are over $100 and a 1% interest charge if a balance is more than 30 days past due. So visit our website, become familiar with the important dates and deadlines, and pay attention to those dates so that you can avoid late fees and interest charges. You're also going to find information about our payment plan enrollment dates on our website. So this is a great opportunity or option for students. Let's say you receive financial aid, but it's not going to cover everything. Maybe you want to sign up for a payment plan, which allows you to pay the remainder of your balance in 3 installments. There is a $35 enrollment fee to sign up, and that is each quarter you need to register for the payment plan. It opens up about a week before the quarter starts, and enrollment for the payment plan closes about a week after the quarter starts. The first installment is due upon enrollment, and as I previously stated, there is a $35 enrollment fee. So take a look at that and see if that's a good option for you. You can sign up through your Western account online. Another thing on our website that you'll find is a virtual scheduler, which allows you to schedule a meeting with a billing specialist that can go over your specific account questions. So please take a look at that and take advantage of it. Another thing on our website that I want to point out is our checklist for success. We have 4 things that we recommend every first-year student does. So please visit our website today and take a look at these. I'm going to define each of them, kind of go a little bit more in depth into them. The first is the release of financial information. So if you, as a student, have somebody that you want to give access to be able to call our office and talk about a charge or a payment, anything billing related, you need to complete the release of information, which is done on an e-sign form. You'll log in, you'll indicate who you are releasing that information to, and we will include that name on your account. So if that person calls our office, we can have that discussion and go over your bill with them. The next is the authorization to apply financial aid funds. This is a really important one if you're going to go to the bookstore and charge books to your account and you want financial aid to pay for that. You need to have this form completed. Otherwise, you'll have to pay for that separately. Other miscellaneous charges, such as like if you go visit the health center and have a charge associated with that visit, you need to have this form completed in order to have financial aid pay for those types of charges. Next, the payer invitation. So I talked already about the release of financial information that allows somebody to call our office and discuss your account with them. The payer invitation allows you to give access to your Western account online to a parent or another payer that you want to be able to go on there. They can make a payment, they can view statements. So send that person a payer invitation and they will receive an email, and they'll be able to create their own login so that they can go on at their convenience, make a payment for you, view your statement, do that today. And last, direct deposit. So most students who attend Western will receive a refund to their Western account online at one time or another, even if you're not a financial aid recipient. Refunds are generated for a variety of reasons. One of them is excessive financial aid. Another might be a class withdrawal or an overpayment. Also, returned class fees is a common one that we see. So our preferred method of refunding is by direct deposit. We want to make sure that if you're using excess financial aid to pay for something like rent, you have access to that money quickly. And the best way to do that is signing up for direct deposit. So this summer, you should have received a green envelope from our partner, Bank Mobile, with instructions on how to set up direct deposit. If you didn't get the envelope or you put it in the recycling bin, there's no worry. You can go to a website, which is on our SBO homepage, refundselection.com, and follow the instructions to sign yourself up for direct deposit. We'll want to make clear that sometimes parents or a payer will ask, I've made an overpayment, can it just sit there for the next quarter and pay for winter's tuition, even though I paid it during fall? And we cannot hold credit balances over quarter to quarter. So we will release those funds to the student and we want to get them that money quickly. And so again, we encourage you to sign up for direct deposit. So I keep talking about the Western account online. I want to show you a view of that. When you log in, which you can do, students can do it directly from the SBO homepage. Another option is to go through Web4U. So Jasmine already talked about Web4U. That's where you're going to look at your financial aid award letter. That's where you're going to register for classes. It's our online portal for students so they can access their student information. You can also access your Western account online through Web4U. Parents, if you've been set up as a payer, you can access the Western account online directly from the SBO homepage. We have a link that says parents, and there's other links if you're accessing somebody else's Western account that way. So the things that you can do on the Western account online is view account activity, access monthly statements, view your 1098-T, send a payer invitation. You can pay your account balance. And you can also sign up for the quarterly payment plan through your Western account online. Statements are issued to students around the first of the month. Students and any payers that they've set up will receive an email to their Western email address. Payers will have it sent to the email address that they've set up through the Western account online. And the statement is great. It shows activity that occurred on the account the 30 days prior to the statement being issued. However, the statement is stale at the time that it's issued, and so we want to draw your attention to the balance that's listed on this view here. That's going to be real-time activity. So maybe you received a statement on August 1st and it showed some activity, but then you made a change a couple days later. What's circled there is the balance, and that's going to show that real-time activity. It's going to be the most up-to-date. So please pay close attention to that and plan accordingly. I'm sure many of you have questions. What we tried to do was sort of summarize some of the most frequently asked questions, and we also have on our website more frequently asked questions. So please visit that, and hopefully it'll give you some good information. I did discuss this already, but a common one that we get is when are payments due? When is my tuition and fees and housing plan due? It's always going to be the first day of the quarter. Those dates are published on the registrar's website. We put them on our website. For fall, that's going to be September 21st. When are late fees assessed and how much are they? So late fees are always assessed at the close of business on the 15th. So if you do a calculation there, we say pay your tuition, fees, and housing on the 21st, but we don't assess late fees until the 15th. You've got a little bit of a grace period in there. If you need to figure out what's going on with financial aid or make a payment, something like that, you've got some time to do that. Just make sure it's done before the close of business on the 15th. And if there is a past due balance on your account, you will see a $55 late fee on balances over $100 or more, and a 1% interest charge on charges that are 30 days old. We get a lot of questions about 529 plans and GET plans. How do I get that payment to Western? So for your 529 plan, we have two different ways. So for the 529 plan, we encourage you to visit your provider's website, log into that account, and sign up for electronic funds transfer to your personal checking account. So get that 529 money into your account, and then make sure you do that in advance of when the payment is due. Then you can visit the Western account online and make an e-check payment with those funds. And an e-check payment does require your account number and your routing number. So you don't want to use any kind of debit card. You want to use your account number and your routing number. This is the fastest, safest, and easiest way to pay using your 529 plan. For GET, Guaranteed Education Tuition, I think that's what it stands for. That's what Washington's program. So you want to make sure that you log into your GET account and request the number of units for the upcoming quarter. GET will send that money directly to Western, and it gets applied to the student's account. So make sure you make the request well in advance so that you can avoid late fees. Another common question that we get is about convenience fees. So I was just discussing the e-check, and that is what we recommend students and payers use if you have that ability. If you need to pay with a card, so you're using a debit card or you're using a credit card, there is a convenience fee. Card payments incur a $3 fee for anything that is $20, to $109. If it's outside of that range, it's 2.75%. And that fee goes to our vendor Transact that we use for our online payment portal. Western does not keep those fees. So again, the easiest way is to do e-check if you can. Just make sure you have your account number and routing number and plug that information in. You can save it to your Western account online so you don't have to remember it each time. Thank you so much for your time. Oh, there's my last question. There you go. There we go. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions regarding paying on your Western account online, make sure to visit our website, schedule an appointment with our office, give us a call. We're available Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you this fall.
Great, thank you, Karen. So for our final presentation, we will hear from Anya Engeldow from the University Residences to guide us through understanding your financial obligations and your housing agreement to help you avoid any unnecessary fees. Go ahead, Anya.
Thank you, Jessica. Let me quickly share my screen and then we'll get started. Okay, so as Jessica said, my name is Anya Engeldow. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm an assistant director of business services in University Residence. And because we love polls, I'm just going to quickly start this presentation with a quick poll just to get a gauge of how many students we will have living on campus with us. Okay, so hopefully everyone sees the poll on the screen, and we'll just take a few seconds. Take a look. Oh, this is great. It looks like we have almost 90% of the attendees will have a student living on campus with us. That's great. Thank you for responding. So I am here today to answer any financial related questions about housing. If you have questions regarding your application, room selection, move-in time slot, because that would require looking up your specific account, I would encourage you to give us a call or send us an email. We have a team standing by to respond to those questions. I also want to just briefly mention our website has a lot of really good information regarding move-in, our guide to housing, your housing contract and financial obligations, what you can bring to campus. I've had students ask if they could bring a piano. Please don't bring a piano. The rooms are not that big. We have many job openings in University Residence, our housing rates and floor plans, and you can explore the different buildings that we have. We are tentatively gonna, it just found out this morning, we did early in August have a housing webinar that we hosted one evening to answer questions. We are planning on hosting another one August 31st. That date isn't 100% firm, so I would just encourage you to check our website. When that does firm up, it'll be on the main page with the dates and the launch button to join the webinar. So right now we're looking at August 31st at 6 p.m. I wanted to also, I'm trying to keep this short because I know that there's going to be a lot of questions out there for all the groups, but I would like to share some key dates with everyone. I plan on posting the housing bills, the room and meal plans at the end of August. If you applied late and don't have a meal plan yet, we'll assign one to you, which you can change later on. If you applied late and you don't have a room assignment yet, don't worry, just keep checking your housing portal. They're filling in rooms daily. And again, you can always check in with our office, but checking your portal will give you most of the information that you need. We will open Meal Manager in early September, probably right after Labor Day. We'll try to get that open that first week of September. We shoot for September 1st, but I always like to just give a little cushion. So we'll say after Labor Day, once Meal Manager is open, you can go in there, you can change your meal plan, you can increase it, decrease it. If you're not going to be living on campus but would like to sign up for a commuter meal plan, you'll be able to do that at that time. Once I turn on the billing in August, the bills will start running automatically every day. So if you sign up if you go into Meal Manager on September 8th, sign up for a meal plan, you can expect that charge on your student account on September 9th. If you go in on September 8th and change your meal plan, you can expect that adjustment to appear on your student account the following day. Move-in has always traditionally been in the past the Sunday before classes start. For the last 2 years, we've actually started it the Thursday. So we're going to open our doors Thursday. Most of you should have gotten notification that you can go into your housing portal and sign up for a move-in time slot. We try to make it so that it's, you know, maybe 1,000 people on Thursday, 1,000 people on Friday, kind of stagger it out. COVID has changed a lot of our practices. We will open the dining halls on that Thursday, starting with dinner. So if you're moving in Thursday night, we will have a dining hall open. I think we'll just have one on Thursday night, and then starting Friday, Saturday, we'll be opening up more and more of the dining hall. So there will be dinner available Thursday night, and if you have a meal plan, you can start using your meal plan then. Next, I just want to briefly touch on housing rates. We have different options to fit everyone's budgets. We have 3 types of rates. We have the value rate, the standard rate, and the premium rate. So when you're selecting your rooms, just keep in mind that based on what amenities you have, your rates are going to change. If you're in a value room, which is probably about 60% of our rooms, it's going to be a room in a hall with a bathroom down the hallway. That's bathrooms probably shared with 12 students. If you have a standard style room, it's a suite style room. So it's 2 bathrooms with sort of a central living room area and a shared bathroom between the 2 rooms. And then premium is the suite style with a kitchen. We also have different meal plans. You know, we have from the lowest being the 80 meal plan to the highest being the unlimited meal plan. What it means is if you have an 80 meal plan, that means that you can go into the dining hall, you have 80 swipes, and you can get a meal 80 times. You can either eat in the dining hall, or we now offer to-go options. If you have the unlimited meal plan, you can go in and out of the dining hall as many times as you want. So if you just want to go in and grab a cup of coffee, or you just want to go in and grab a bagel, you don't want to sit down and have a full meal, that's a better value for your dollar. All of our meal plans also come with dining dollars that you can use at the various retail locations on campus, including Starbucks. So if you have some dining dollars left over from fall quarter, they will roll over to winter quarter. And at the end of the academic year, all the dining dollars expire. So we'll see a lot of times students might have a few $100s in dining dollars at the end of spring quarter, and they go shopping in our markets and load up on coffee, crackers, snacks, whatever. So we don't want you to walk away, you know, use your dining dollars. And so always keep an eye on that. And then I just briefly mentioned this, just always keep in mind, if you change rooms, change meal plans, there's going to be an adjustment to your account. If you go from a value room to a premium tier room, just keep an eye on your account, because you want to avoid those late fees on the 15th of the month. So yeah, we always just say, just keep checking. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about a little bit? Avoid unnecessary fees, right? If you're checking out early, you know, check out properly with your RA. Just don't leave your keys and walk out, because then we don't know that you're gone, and we're continuing to bill you for your room and meal plan because you haven't checked out. And there's no way for us to know that you really left 2 weeks ago. So let us know. If when you sign your housing contract, the housing contract is for the entire academic year. So if you're living in the dorms, but you know what, I really like these new apartment buildings down the street, and you break your contract, you will be charged a fee because the contract runs for the whole academic year. If there is any kind of issue with your account, it's outstanding, we will always send emails or try to call you. We send the emails to the student email address. So if you're getting an email from the Housing Business Office, there's a problem with your account and something is past due, and we will try emailing you several times. When we don't get any response is when we might send an eviction notice, or we suspend your meal plan for non-payment. So please, please, please always check your emails. We try very hard to work with everyone and resolve the issues, and generally we can. But if you don't respond to us, then we usually have to resort to sending letters. So another common thing that we have is parents are calling because they want to talk about their student account. As Karen mentioned, please make sure that your student has a release of final information form on file. When a parent calls, that is the first thing that we check to see if there's one on file. If it's not on file, we can't release any information regarding your student's account. Another issue is students haven't done the authorization to apply financial aid funds. So they have all kinds of charges on their accounts. Financial aid's not paying it. So that's just a common one that we get in our office, and then we refer them to the student business office. So to stress what Karen said, release the financial information and authorization to apply financial aid funds. And again, pay attention to your emails. We email the students, not the parents, and it's hard. Students get a lot of emails. They get a lot of Canvas notifications, but we really only email you if it's important. So just get in the habit of checking your emails daily, deleting the junk stuff. And that's really all I have. I just real short and sweet. So I will send it back to you, Jessica.
Great. Thank you, Anya. Yeah, I would also like to say it's very important to check your student email. That's my number one tip for being a student. Everyone's going to contact you through there, and you definitely don't want to miss anything important. So yes, I totally agree with that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Q&A portion. If you have questions, just make sure to use the Q&A function. And if you, like I said earlier, if you have questions that are your specific circumstances, feel free to email the office that they're related to, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. We will try to get to as many questions as we can today, but if we don't, again, you can also just feel free to contact us. But first, before we get started with our questions, I know Karen had something that she wanted to go over really quick.
Thanks, Jessica. Yeah, I realized that I skipped over one of my FAQs, which is really important, and I think I see some questions about it. A very common question we get is, when will I see my financial aid on my account, or does it pay for tuition and fees? And it does. So the way things will work is you're going to, students will be registering for classes, selecting their courses, and that creates their tuition and fee charges. So some of you may have registered already, and you could look at your Western account online and see those charges on there. And Anya talked about housing and meal plans will be applied probably later this month. So you'll be able to see all those charges on your account and when does financial aid hit. And so that begins, it starts paying to your Western account the Friday before classes start. So that is September 16th this year. You should be able to log on that weekend and see if your financial aid has applied, as long as all of your requirements have been satisfied and you've got your award letter. So we suggest taking a look that weekend to see if it looks as expected. If not, reach out to the respective offices. Financial aid will continue to apply regularly for the first couple of weeks of the quarter, and then just kind of a couple times a week after that. So if you don't have everything in at the beginning of the quarter, don't worry. We continue to disperse financial aid throughout. It just starts that Friday before classes start. And that includes scholarships. And we have some people on this panel that can talk a little bit more specifically about that if that's needed.
Awesome. Thanks, Karen. All right, let's get started with our questions. What's our first question?
Okay, the first question looks to be a financial aid question. So Jasmine, this is for you. Are parents able to access the updated financial aid offer somewhere outside of the student's portal?
So similar to the other offices, we do have a release of information form available for the financial aid office. It is separate from the other one, so it's a specific one for our office. Just wanted to plug that because I don't think I mentioned it in part of this answer. Because no, the student portal for financial aid is for the student. It's the student's financial aid, their responsibility. So your student could certainly, log on with you in the room to show that to you. Or if they have a release of information filled out with your information on there that allows us to speak with you about certain aspects of financial aid, you could contact our office and we could go over that with you. But no, it's available in Web4U and the student has access to that only.
Let's go on to another question. And this is more logistics about the presentation. And I think we kind of get this every time, but it says, you mentioned that this was recorded. Where can we find the video after the Zoom meeting? So Karen, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So we will be posting it to the SBO website. I think it's also going to be linked on the new student services, which will throw that if it's not already in the chat. So I just shared that, not with everyone. Here we go. The SBO website is shared in the chat. Right now, we do have our July 27th recording is on there. If you scroll towards the middle of the homepage, you'll see that, and we will put the webinar we did last night on there, as well as today's webinar. So just give us a few days to work through editing it a little bit and the transcript, and then we'll have that up there.
Thank you. So we have a question about housing and dining. So Anya, how does my student use their meal plan? Will they get a meal card? Please explain dining dollars, because I'm not really sure how are winter and spring breaks handled. Are they included in the cost? A few questions, but sort of all related.
Yeah, no, that is a great question. Students can access their meal plans a couple of ways. The first way is with their Western ID card. They'll use their Western ID card to swipe in and out of the dining halls. We also have there's a mobile app that students can download on their smartphone. I think it's called Get Mobile. And we'll be sending out students information on how to download the app, and it'll also be in their welcome bag. So they can either use the app or their Western card. If they've lost their Western card and they don't have the app, they can always access the dining halls by giving the cashier their Western ID number. Dining halls are open during the quarters and they're closed during the break periods. However, during break periods, we do have some retail locations open during the day, and dining dollars are part of your meal plan that you can use in those retail locations. I believe for each quarter, this, along with their meal swipes, the student will get, I think it's 220 dining dollars that they could use to like go into Starbucks, Panda, Subway, and they get a certain amount of guest meals that they can swipe. So if a parent comes to visit, each meal plan comes with a certain amount of guest swipes. So if you only used 100 of your dining dollars in fall quarter, the balance will roll over to the winter quarter, and everything starts fresh winter quarter. You get, if you're on the 80 meal plan, you get your 80 swipes and your $220 plus the dining dollars that you didn't use in the previous quarter.
Can I clarify real quick, just because
Yeah.
I want to make sure this is maybe a new experience for people, but when you talk about Starbucks and Panda, we happen to have those restaurants in town. You are referring to on-campus eateries, correct?
Correct. Yes. On campus eateries.
Okay, we have both of those available on campus, but I didn't want folks going over to Sunset Drive and trying to go to Panda Express and using their Western card, because that will not work for them.
No, great point. Thank you.
Yeah. And then the last piece of this question, because it was really sort of encompassing the whole dining and housing, but breaks for housing. Can students stay on campus, or do they have to leave during the breaks?
Yes, you can remain. Your contract is for the entire academic year, right? So from September 15th to June 10th. So you will have access to your room during the break period. You're not charged for your room during those periods, but you're welcome to stay there. The only time that we will charge you for the break period is if, let's say you came for fall quarter, you stayed in your room all through the break period. Winter quarter starts January 3rd, but January 5th, you said, you know what? I'm out of here. I don't want to stay. If you leave within the first 2 weeks of the next quarter, then you get charged for the break period. So the break period is only free if you stay for at least 2 weeks into the next quarter.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, this question is for the Student Business Office. Will I get charged a fee when I use my bank account information on the Western account online, if I'm just using my bank account?
No, I mean, that would be an e-check payment. And so there's no fee for that. So you don't want to pull out your debit card and plug in the numbers on your debit card, then you will pay a fee. But if you plug in your bank account number and routing number, that is an e-check payment and there's no fee for that.
There's actually been a couple jobs or a couple questions about jobs. And so I think I'm going to try and consolidate some. Jasmine, this is your area of expertise. So the first question is, what category of students are offered work study?
Yeah, so work study, again, is a need-based type of employment opportunity. So from the FAFSA application, it's determined what your financial aid eligibility is, if you're eligible for need-based aid or not. And since work study is a need-based type of aid, you would have to be eligible as determined by the FAFSA application. You do also have to indicate, yes, you're interested in work study on the FAFSA application. So if you're thinking, I'm a high need student and I wasn't offered work study, that might be a reason. So if you're expecting work study in your financial aid offer or thinking you're eligible or curious about that, contact our Student Employment Center. We can take a look at your specific file and situation and explain to you your individual work study eligibility, but that eligibility overall is determined by the FAFSA. And on your screen here, the financial aid website, if you go there, you'll be able to access the Student Employment Center website from there.
Great. And so these are kind of a couple linked questions. And I talked about it a little bit, but maybe we need a little bit more clear difference between on-campus work study versus non-work study employment opportunities. And I actually, just as a heads up, I had put the Student Employment Job Board in the chat. So families who are attending this actually should have access to that job board. Awesome.
Thank you, Dina. Yeah, so work study is available on and off campus. If there are work study positions, we have some, most of them are on campus, but we do have some off campus. And then non-work study positions also available to apply for through our Student Employment Center website. I'm so sorry, Dina, will you repeat the question again for me?
It's really just the difference between work study and non-work study,
Okay.
Kind of, do they look different? Are they, different jobs?
Yeah, so really for employers who qualify to be a work study employer, they have to meet regulations that allow for them to have work study students as employees. And those employers benefit because that work study award in your award letter is the pot of money that your paycheck is coming from. So the employer gets the benefit of us paying for you to work for them, and you as a student with work study get the benefit of not having those wages count in future financial aid eligibility determination. So really overall though, that's the biggest difference between work study and non-work study jobs is the benefit for work study looking at the FAFSA and future financial aid eligibility, whereas non-work study is any other just regular employment job you might have, whether that's on campus or off campus student employment. I mean, that could even mean working at a local spot in Bellingham, and all of our jobs on campus, off campus, work study, non-work study are listed on our Student Employment Center website. It's a really great spot to start for looking for any type of student employment opportunities because our community in Bellingham utilizes it heavily to post jobs when they're looking to hire. And the big perk of that is employers know that you're a student first. So each quarter as your schedule changes, they're going to work with you to do your work schedule around your classes and knowing you're a student first and a student employee second.
Thank you. I think, and I know I've heard this before that, there's sometimes a misconception that work study is just automatically paid out or in some way, but really it looks like any other job. You actually have to apply, potentially go through interviews, do HR paperwork. It really doesn't for a student look any different, a work study position versus the other. So they really look the same in a lot of ways.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, great. And then the applying was the last piece, which I think we've covered, is that those jobs are listed on the job board, and then each area might have their own application process, just like a regular job you're seeking.
Yeah, totally. So if we have a job posted there, say, for example, you have work study, we might have a job posted there for the Student Employment Center is hiring right now. You could contact them and you would go through an interview process. And then if you get hired, go to HR, do your paperwork. And then once you start working, earn that paycheck and get a paycheck sent, directly deposited to you, just like any other job that you would have.
I'll just throw in that SBO is also hiring right now and we are out there. So please take a look.
As is Transportation Services.
As is the Scholarship Center.
And the Financial Aid Services Center, I think, too, which are all awesome spots to work. I'll go ahead and plug that I was a work study student before I was a professional staff, and it's an awesome opportunity. Student employment in general is just really, really encouraged because it has so many great benefits and helps your, funding of your higher education and offset your need to borrow.
And as much as I'd like to go round robin and really hit up, that we continue to get work study questions. So I'm going to just kind of keep, this is an important thing. If we left our work study offer not declined or accepted, will we be able to accept it later in the year and start working after fall quarter? So I think it's a great question to address.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the meantime, you're more than welcome to leave it in the offered status if you're undecided on whether or not you want to pursue a work study position. Eventually, we will send you a notification that if you aren't going to utilize work study or you don't respond to that notification, that your work study would be canceled so that we can offer those funds to other folks who are eligible. We do have a wait list for people who are eligible but weren't offered. Again, it's a need-based type of employment opportunity, so the funding is limited, and so not everyone who wants work study will get it, but you can definitely leave it in the offered status in the meantime. Or same thing, if you accept it and don't get a job, we will send students that same notification when the time comes that they kind of need to take action or be at risk of losing that work study for the current academic year. And just like anything, it's annual for financial aid. So if you don't have work study this year and your eligibility changes, you could potentially be offered it in a future quarter, a future year. So yes, you can leave it in the offered status for now. It's the short answer.
Thanks. Okay. Anya, this is a very broad question. How does move-in work?
How does move-in work?
In a 30-second spiel, can you
Yep.
tell us how move-in works?
Yep, 30-second spiel. It's you sign up for a time slot. Like again, we're spreading this out over 4 days, with the first day being Thursday, September 15th. Try to show up relatively close to your time slot. We're not going to turn you away if your time slot's at 10 and you show up at 9, but we do try to kind of stick with our time slots. When you come to campus, depending on where you're living, we have North Campus, South Campus, Ridge. Keep in mind that Western is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful campus on a hill, which means that we don't have a lot of space to sit and park, and we don't have great loading and unloading spaces. So what you can expect is when you come, you'll probably be put in a line. We'll have this all staged, and parking services helps us, and we really try to move it along. You'll come in. When it's your time, you will, you get in line with your car. You will get sent down to the loading area for your particular dorm. We'll have staff there with carts, trolleys, help you unload your car, get stuff up to your, help you unload your car. We try to keep it so that each car has about 20 minutes in the loading area, just because we're trying to get through about 1,000 people a day. So it's, we used to do this all in one day, which was crazy. Spreading it out over 4 days is better, but you can expect that there will be some kind of wait as we're trying to get students moved in and they're going up elevators, and but until cars move out of the loading dock area, we can't move cars in. So it's a fun, crazy, busy day. Last year it was windy and raining and our tents were blowing over and our porta potties were blown over. So hopefully this year will be a little bit better.
Okay, thank you for that spiel. I like it. Okay, here's a question that is sort of parking, but related to university residences. How should we go about getting on the parking permit wait list if we don't have a dorm assignment? Interesting blend of a question there.
Jillian, do you want to take that one?
I can take that.
Thank you.
So if you don't have a dorm assignment and you are planning on living on campus, then you'll just need to wait for that dorm assignment, because the wait list won't open for you until you are showing in the system as being an on-campus resident. If you're planning on living off campus, then you can put yourself on the wait list now for the C lot. And I recommend choosing the Lincoln Creek lot as a second choice if you definitely need to have parking close to campus.
Right.
Not camping close to parking.
Okay, Jasmine, I believe this question is for you. It's related to student loans. If my student doesn't turn 18 until November, can they still apply for a student loan?
So do we have any clarification on if they're talking about federal loans or private loans?
My guess would be federal loans.
Okay. So yeah, for federal loans, because those are awarded through the FAFSA application process, if your student's not 18, they don't actually have to do a credit check or apply for that loan any further when it's offered in their financial aid offer. So they would just go into Web for You, choose to accept it, complete those 2 requirements, the loan entrance counseling and master promissory note. And it's not an issue if they're not 18 yet, because that's kind of overridden with the fact that they're in higher education now. So they're eligible for the loan ahead of being 18 years old. Just in case it was about private loan, that would depend on the lender, and you would want to contact the lender if you're looking at private loan. And most likely, I believe you would need to be 18 to be on the loan with a cosigner for a private loan. But for a federal loan, if it's the federal direct unsubsidized or subsidized loan, it does not matter that they aren't 18 yet.
Great answer. It's very good information. This is also for you, and I think it's actually a really important question in light of all the kind of loan information that you hear in the news. But this question is, can a Parent Plus loan be transferred to my student at any point after they graduate? Can that parent loan go to my student?
That's a great question. And the answer, unfortunately, is no at this point in time. The Parent Plus loan is tied to the parent for the life of that loan. However, something you could consider is potentially pursuing a different type of loan that in your student's name that you could then use to pay off the Parent Plus loan. But the Parent Plus loan cannot be transferred to the student later. However, if you're thinking, as a parent, we have about, I think 50% of the audience is parents today. If you're thinking you don't want to take a Parent Plus loan or have a loan in your name for your student's higher ed, private loan can definitely be a good option to look at in that scenario. Even if it's a parent private loan, a lot more of those have options to transfer to the student, or if you're co-signing on the student loan with your student, releasing the co-signer later.
Okay, Anya, this is housing-ish question. So it's about move-in. So if my student signed up to volunteer for move-in, when do they hear back if they're actually going to be able to volunteer? Do you know that?
I don't know that. If you give me a second, I'm going to chat my coworker.
Great.
To see if I can find out that answer, and I'll come back if I find an answer.
Okay. And if nothing else, I think, there's got to be, some contact they could have with whoever sort of gave them information about volunteering in the first place. So hopefully, yeah, let us know if you find that answer out.
Yeah, and definitely emailing the housing at WWU, because it's part of the application. So if I can't find an answer, send an email. I feel like it's going to be soon, but I don't have the exact date. So let me see if I can find out.
Okay, great. Let's see. Back to work study. And that's great. I mean, I think all of us really do believe in the power of student employment. So I love that there's lots of questions about that. So this is a sort of combined question. It's two questions, but I think they're closely related. If my daughter qualified for work study, does she get guaranteed a job? Does that mean she for sure has that if she gets a job? And then is it subtracted from her tuition amount, regardless of what the job pays? So I think that just some clarification on sort of how that works with a set dollar amount of work study being awarded. How does that really work with the pay and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. So most often you'll see that a student's awarded $1,800 a quarter in work study. Having work study does not guarantee you a job. As we mentioned, work study positions are just like any other employment position. So you would need to apply for that job and, like we said, go through an interview process most likely, and then be selected from that interview process and hired by the employer. So it doesn't guarantee a job. However, there are lots of work study opportunities out there. So if for some reason they didn't get the first work study job they applied for, definitely contact our Student Employment Center. We can go over options, maybe even talk to them about working with our Career Services Center to bolster up their resume if they're finding that they're having a hard time finding a position. So it doesn't guarantee it, but there are resources available if they're having any troubles finding a work study position to get hired into. And so work study, that pot of money, we'll do it on a quarterly basis as an example. So fall quarter, say your student has $1,800 of work study available to them. They've accepted that. They went out and found a work study position and got hired and started working. When they get that paycheck, it's sent directly to them. It doesn't go to their tuition or towards any bill. It gets directly sent to them from their time that they worked. They get that paycheck, and then they can use those funds for whatever they deem necessary. We encourage them to use that for higher education expenses, maybe setting it aside for future books and supplies, using that for some of those indirect costs we talked about, personal expenses, things like that. And so, yeah, it gets paid directly to them. And then that $1,800 that they get awarded is essentially the pot of money that their paycheck is coming from each quarter. So they are capped at $1,800 a quarter that they can potentially earn in their work study position. So for example, say your student gets a job and they're earning 16 hours or $16 an hour. Then per quarter, that student then would be able to work about 11 hours a week to fully earn their fall quarter work study allocation by getting that paycheck from that pot of $1,800. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
I think it does. And so, yeah, the pay rates may vary and hours that a particular position might vary, but in the end, students are sort of limited. They cannot earn more based on those two factors than what their award is, correct, for work study?
Exactly, correct. And that'll just depend on the type of work study position they want to apply for and that they get. So depending on the employer's needs, the type of job that it is, that just like any other job, rate of pay is going to be different for somebody who's, you know, maybe doing not something a little bit more simple compared to something that might be a more complicated and in-depth position. The pay rates, you know, might vary depending on the type of work, but overall, yeah, the amount of work study is the portion that they can earn each quarter, and depending on how much you're making is how quickly you'll burn through that.
Great, thanks. Anya, I didn't choose a roommate. When will I know my dorm room?
I would just keep checking your housing portal weekly. They're continuously working on assignments and putting students into rooms. I believe that they should have the bulk of them done by September 1st. So if you still don't see a room assignment by September 1st, I would send an email, reach out to the housing office. But if you have an active application, your deposit's paid and everything's squared away, we will find a space for you, but the assigning process is ongoing.
Okay, Karen, this is a clarification about late fees. So, and it's probably a good thing to just hone in on this. Tuition is considered late on the 15th of what month?
The 15th of every month. But for fall quarter, we want your tuition and fees paid by the first day of the quarter, which is September 21st. And the first time we assess late fees is October 15th.
And then what about, my understanding, October 15th, January 15th, and April 15th?
Well, the 15th of every month is when we assess late fees. So
Correct.
The first time it's late for fall would be October 15th. We'll do it again on November 15th, but that would be the same. Yeah. So the 15th of the month, fall winter quarter starts on January 4th, I think. So January 15th would be the first time we assess for winter.
Okay, thank you. I think just understanding sort of how that works on a quarterly basis helps families. This might be, I'm not actually sure where a desk attendant would be, but my student was hired as a desk attendant on campus. Is his move-in date the same as other students? So Anya, do you think that that's in your area?
That is in my area because we do have desk attendants in all of the residence halls. I do not know what date the desk attendants move in. I feel like they move in a little bit early because they might have some training that they need to do. If your student didn't get when they were hired as a desk attendant, they would have hopefully gotten that information in an email. If not, just have your desk attendant, sorry, have your student reach out. I'm not sure who in our department that the student has been talking to. We have several that kind of handle that area, and we've had some turnover, but yeah, your student should have received that information in the offer letter. So if not, just have them reach out to whoever hired them.
Great. Okay, financial aid question. This was one of the early ones, so I just, I think that's still a good question. Are all of these aid types, which I'm assuming was the ones we were talking about in the award letter, are all these aid types derived from the FAFSA, or is there another way to apply for some of those?
Yeah, that's a great question. So all grant funding, so for example, one of the largest ones we might see is like the Pell Grant or Washington College Grant. The eligibility for grant funding does come from the FAFSA application. Scholarships, so admission scholarships for first-year students are probably the bulk of them. Some private scholarships might require a FAFSA application if it's a need-based scholarship, but scholarship doesn't necessarily require the FAFSA or is based on the FAFSA. And then work study is based off of the FAFSA application as well as federal loans. So that's the federal direct subsidized and unsubsidized loan. And private loan does not require a FAFSA application. People, families, students, parents can apply for a private loan without FAFSA, and the FAFSA is not utilized at all for the private loan application process through lenders.
Okay. This is again to you, Jasmine. How do I apply for a federal direct subsidized loan? Is there any advantages for this type of loan?
So the FAFSA application determines if you're eligible for the subsidized loan. If you're not eligible for subsidized, you'll see that the full annual amount is offered to you in the unsubsidized. So if it's not included in your financial aid offer, the subsidized loan that is, then it's likely you weren't eligible for it as determined by the FAFSA application. But completing the FAFSA is essentially how you determine or apply for the loan, since there's not a subsequent application or credit check for that loan. So just by submitting the FAFSA application, we determine your eligibility for subsidized and unsubsidized loan.
We're getting down to this, time-wise, just a few more minutes, but we're down to just about 6 questions. I think this is a good one. How is the transportation cost estimate calculated? So I'm assuming in that cost of attendance, how is transportation figured out?
Yeah, I can take that. So the transportation is an estimated indirect cost. So you're not directly billed by Western for all transportation expenses, unless you say, for example, sign up for a parking pass or something along those lines. But all students are allocated the transportation component of the cost of attendance, because most folks will at some point in time during the year have some sort of expense that they incur related to transportation. So maybe if you're traveling back and forth to home from campus over winter and spring breaks. So it's also a consumer choice option as well a little bit with that cost, because you could potentially say, only ride the bus and ride your bike, and maybe your parents come pick you up over break. And so it might look a little bit different depending on your specific situation, but the amount that we estimate is based off of historical information we've received from students. We do surveys, and we actually have a board that helps determine our cost of attendance. So historically, this is the average expense that students incur in transportation related expenses over the year, is that $1,400 figure. But again, that might look a little bit different for each student depending on their specific situation.
Okay, thank you. And there's actually 2 scholarship questions. I think I'll try and answer those as somebody who works in our scholarship office on campus. So the question is, what GPA is required to maintain a WWU scholarship? Really, the main components of continuing to be eligible for WWU is to complete full-time credits each quarter and to remain in good academic standing. So there's not typically a specific GPA like you must have a 3.5 or anything like that. They're really just making sure that students are being successful and completing their courses. There is a process that admissions will sort of check at a yearly basis just to make sure students are moving along, but there is no specific GPA requirement for that. And then there was a question about outside scholarships. And so as somebody who works in the scholarship office, a couple things is those scholarship checks actually get sent to Western via our colleagues in the business office. So they get sent to the university cashier and get deposited, and then the scholarship office actually processes those, adds them to a financial aid award as available funding, and then we apply those funds just like any other financial aid. Typically full-time enrollment is required, and we split those scholarships over the 3 terms of enrollment. There's more information on the Scholarship Center website about how we process private scholarships and where those checks can be sent.
Dina, I just wanted to mention real quick while we're still actively on the webinar, there's a lot of really good resources shared in the chat. So please take a moment to look at that before we end the webinar, because I'm not sure that that information comes through to the actual recorded video. So there's information on transportation resources, student employment, tuition and fee charts. The last question about late fees, I've posted a link to a chart that shows the first day of the quarter and the first late fee assessment. There's information on how to set up your refund preference. So I just wanted to give that plug before we sign off here.
Okay. And this is one question, this is about move-in, so I really wanted to get this one on you, like a two household family, both parents actually want to be part of move-in, and they can't do it in just one vehicle. Like, is it feasible to bring 2 cars to campus?
It is, and we often have students just show up with their belongings in multiple vehicles. Where it gets a little bit tricky because we have those loading areas is getting both of those vehicles to the loading areas at the same time. So if there is belongings in 2 vehicles, we'll do our best to get them both to the loading area. If one vehicle is just following behind because they want to be a part of the fun, then usually we'll encourage them to park in the C lot and meet the student in front of the dorm. Just you'll see when you come in, it is just a beautiful campus, but not much space.
Okay, great. That I'm sure helped clarify for them. And I think I'm gonna, finish up and kick this back to Jessica. We have a few questions that maybe could be answered, later, or maybe you have some ways that they might get their questions answered.
Yeah, thank you, Dina. Thank you everybody for attending today. Just like Dina just said, if your question didn't get answered or if you think of anything at any point, please feel free to contact any of our offices. And email is a really great way, like we've referred to, and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Yeah, again, I'd like to just say welcome to Western, and we're really looking forward to see you all this fall. Have a great day.